RuneScape did not die in 2010, no matter what the mainstream media tells you. I would know, I'm still hopelessly addicted. So when Jagex Shadow dropped a new RuneScape survival game, my addict brain started theory crafting XP rates and how to get 99s on day one. But you, my average viewer, of which only 1% of you are subscribed by the way, are probably wondering, should I play this cool looking early access game, or is it a gateway game onto something more hardcore? Well, I've already fallen off the wagon, so let me help you decide. Buy it or skip it.
Adventure called, a brave few answered. Among them, an elite band of explorers.
Me!
Some of Gillen's finest.
After the opening cinematic, you're dropped into the world with nothing to your name. Hi, I was summoned and are warmly greeted by the wise old man, an iconic face to RuneScape veterans.
Yes, hello.
This is where the tutorial begins and you're introduced to the core gameplay mechanics. And the wise old man isn't the only one to greet you.
No.
General Velgar, which the keen-eyed among you will notice is an anagram of gravel, is the current endgame boss, and will pop up as a random encounter dropping his load of acid on you, making sure you never learn to miss him.
Okay, Velgar, can you calm down?
But more on that later. For now, back to the tutorial. Doric sets up your foundational skills in building and crafting, which is a bit of a dwarven stereotype, but we'll move on. He also teaches you how to drink water
This is my jam.
and eat food, which if you couldn't have figured out by yourself, then you probably wouldn't have lasted that long anyway. But it does serve to set up the core idea quickly. Thirst and hunger are going to kill you way quicker than dragons will. And honestly, that's accurate, but not for the reasons you're probably thinking. More on that later. We do need to remember this is a survival game, not an MMO. Scavenging, pairing, and planning are going to be essential to your journey. And then Doric sends us on to Vananakadakadaka to learn how to kill and cook rats, which is gross. There's literally chickens right there.
The chicken!
Right there. And then after completing his cookery school, he gives you a little graduation gift. And we quickly moved on to our next instructor, Zanik. And oh my gosh, you have had a glow up.
Damn, Zanik, you look different.
In fact, all 4 of the characters that we've seen before have. Vananaka looks like he's been straight ripped from the games. In fact, when I remember playing RuneScape as a child, this is how I remember characters looking. Of course, in reality they didn't. They looked like pieces of Play-Doh stuck together by a 4-year-old. But I can't help but think this is what they always looked like. Zanik tells you she's going to teach you magic to chop down trees super quickly. But in order to make sure you deserve it, she's going to make you chop down trees, but super slowly.
You don't ask for much, do you?
And then in return for playing along with her,
Am I doing it?
she teaches you how to make runes. And with those runes, commit deforestation. But that's not the end of our tutorial. What would a survival game be without a base to build and call our own? Now it's time for the real fun to begin. Construction and player-owned houses were released into RuneScape May 31st, 2006. But comparing that to Dragonwilds is like comparing a Toto NX2 washlet to a bucket and stick. Sure, functionally they do the same thing, but I know which one I'm picking. That's not to say base building is without faults. Sometimes it can be finicky.
Okay, you're very fiddly, you little
There needs to be more decorative options to build, and you'll find yourself screaming trying to get your building stable enough to get more than a few stories. But when it clicks, it clicks.
Dude, look how cute that place looks. I'm not even kidding.
This is the kind of customization I want on real RuneScape. In fact, most of my first 30 hours of playtime was spent on building this cool pub, and I can imagine sinking hundreds of hours into building bases, villages, more pubs, and recreating Gillenor. I might even build a little beer garden and invite my guy Bill. That's a joke for all 4 of you RS3 players out there. Buildings also come in various levels. By my humble single player experience, they really are more aesthetic choices, because I never really struggled with any of the random events.
Village? I'm being hunted, am I? That's a shame.
Also, the game's fast travel system, the lodestone network, is so generous and usable everywhere that there's really no need to move your base out of Bramblemead Village and deal with any of the higher level random events or monsters. And to begin building any of the higher level bases, you need to have progressed pretty far into the crafting tree anyway, and unlocked a fair amount of materials, resources and processing power. which actually forces you to explore deeper into the game world, which is a great thing. That's a really nice and natural way of pushing you to explore and continue progressing. The real thing I'm complaining about is vaults are repeatable combat dungeons that I avoided for the first 10 hours of my playtime. Partially because they're intimidating, but also because I was building this sweet base. Check out this base. Oh, Gothics! I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what's in here. I'm hoping treasure? Delve into the depths of the ancient Dragonkin dungeons to fight vicious creatures.
Oh no.
Explore to find the path to the boss, and search for hidden treasures and secrets along the way. Every area of the map has a vault, and gives you a target to aim for when you enter a new zone for the first time. This is a solid gameplay loop. Well done! First vault you go in is challenging for your level. You start to encounter a new enemy type that you don't see on the surface, the Archons. And throughout the vault you'll be collecting shards and cores, which can be used to create high-level crafting stations, weapons, and lodestones. The problem is, by the time you finish the third vault, you've started to understand the pattern a little bit too well. You'll occasionally get a high-level armor recipe, like the Paladin armor, but there's only a few unique recipes in the game, and they aren't even that special because they have the same stats as other armor of its level. Even the regular chests give the same overworld resources that you're already overflowing with, and nothing killed my hype faster than charging for a vault and getting my 5th recipe of a keg barrel.
Keg barrel, green standing torch.
Literally garbage. It really started to feel pointless. All while I'm trying to avoid getting knocked out or spending tons of resources fighting the monsters.
Nice. What is it? Trash. Trash.
Even the special,
Trash.
not so secret vault is basically the same, except it gives a masterwork weapon that's outclassed by a simple bow. So the main thing you're really going to be doing in vaults is combat is rough. Especially in single player, especially when fighting multiple enemies, especially when you have the stamina of an asthmatic nun.
Oh wait, I need to build up stamina again?
Attack, you're out of stamina. Dodge, you're out of stamina. Stare intently into the eyes of a monster looking for a shred of humanity. You can bet your ass you're doubly out of stamina. It's okay, you can come back to your gravestone.
When I respawn, I should respawn fully healed. Full of everything, including joy. My depression should be gone.
As long as you can make it. Good luck not getting sniped by any of the 15,000 creatures in the third zone onwards that will near one-hit you. Direwolves, poison, Gauru. It's rough out here. What the hell is a Gauru? It feels worse than getting DDS into Gmaul spec in level 2 Wildy. Oh lord. Speaking of wilderness, whoever decided that poison should kill you in 20 seconds, meet me there please. I've got a little surprise for you. And I wonder if that was the same person that coded the mini-boss AI, because sometimes they just stop and stare ominously. But that might be the only time you have the option of using spells in combat, because the casting time on them is way too long, and you'll get interrupted every single time if the AI is actually working. In fact, I didn't really find a use for any spells in combat, and out of combat the only utility spells I used were the woodcutting, mining, and jumping spells. So yeah, they feel a little bit useless a lot of the time. So I think you get the point. Stamina runs out quickly, poison will take you down fast, and armor doesn't really help too much. You're gonna die a lot to random monsters roaming around the world, and even more to those roaming around the vaults. When you do get higher level armor, the game becomes a bit easier, but you will definitely still run into trouble now and then. I found a good offense. It's actually better than a good defense. So I save my stamina to attack, especially if they're in melee range. Or you could use range and magic to deal with most creatures from afar. By the time I had longbows and decent arrows, I could kill most creatures from afar before they even reached me. The annoying thing is, the game was released into early access without a magical ranged skill tree, which frankly is ridiculous. 2/3 of the combat triangle can't be leveled properly. No skills, no spells, just random books that feel so rare that they feel more like bugs than intentionally included. In fact, the game is so unbalanced, you have random overworld creatures one-tapping you compared to this one. His name is an anagram of Elvarg, by the way. Belgar is clearly inspired by Elvarg, the big bad boss that was then at the end of RuneScape's free-to-play storyline. So let me give you a bit of context to help if you don't know about her. Elvarg has this huge quest, Dragon Slayer, where you need to slay the dragon. But it's more than that. It's a climactic and adrenaline-pumping boss fight for all of the 12-year-olds out there. Elbug is so powerful that the only way you can stand a chance of surviving against her is through the use of anti-fire protections like the anti-dragon shield. And then to reach the island of Crandor, her home, you have to complete dungeons, kill mini-bosses, and solve puzzles all across the game. And then for your reward, you finally unlock the ability to wear the rune plate body, the most impressive piece of armor in the entire game. For its time, it was also the final quest to be added to RuneScape free-to-play before membership was introduced. It was basically the finale to the free-to-play questline. It's one of the most iconic quests in the game, only being replaced by Desert Treasure and Monkey Madness. Now let's have a look at Velgar. Well, the setup's great already. He's been tormenting you through your playthrough, always there causing mayhem for you. You have to make a fair amount of progress into the game to even get to his tower.
We climb the tower.
Then to create the horn used to summon him to the arena for his boss battle, you need a dragon's tooth from the most hated area in the game, where lightning and monsters will kill you if you even think to breathe funny, and you need sap from trees, where the ground and air are so poisonous, if you don't have anti-poison, you're gonna die immediately. Danger. Ticked off. Exploration across the map. Ticked off. This is leading up to a pretty good climax. Let's see the payoff. Cool opening. Gotta be careful to dodge. Oh, I think I got hit. Huh? That didn't damage me. In fact, none of his attacks have damaged me. And my longbow is doing a third of each section of health per arrow. He doesn't even do dragon fire. Why did I spend all of those resources on an anti-dragon shield? To say that the boss fight was a disappointment would be putting it mildly. I was so embarrassed by how easy the fight became with anti-poison, I tried to long it out to see if it would ever become difficult. If someone could tell me why the first dragon doesn't breathe dragon breath, that'd be great, because I can't figure it out. That's just such a simple miss and removes an iconic part of the original quest. And quests have always been one of RuneScape's best parts, because it sure as hell wasn't the combat or the graphics. So is this even RuneScape? Well, I'm a 20-year veteran of RuneScape, which means if anyone's qualified to talk about it, I think I would be. Wait, 20 years? Oh my god. What have I can't. So this is really difficult to say. There's tons of fun goals that I'm just incredibly confused by. Like, let's start looking at the characters and creatures. Most of these creatures look pretty good and are faithful translations from the game. Well, ignoring deers and wolves. But then you realise that for the first public release of the game, there's already creatures that are foreign to RuneScape. And they're actually the majority of the high-level monsters, which means you spend most of your time fighting monsters you've never even heard of. Garus and Archons could easily have been replaced by anything in RuneScape. But instead, we're already diverging unnecessarily. No. But it's not all bad. On the other hand, you have simplifications to classic skills. So instead of having fletching, smithing and crafting, you have one artisan skill, which removes redundant noise from the core crafting loops. And I was really surprised how nice it was that content wasn't actually really locked behind levels, which would have been the real RuneScapey thing to do, but wouldn't fit in the genre of the game that we're playing. And by stepping away from the MMORPG formula and leveling, they've managed to encourage much more engagement with the game world and progression through it. Of course, I've mentioned that quests are integral to RuneScape already, and they function as a narrative tool to explore not just the world, but the characters that live in it. They're the reason that Zanuck and the Wise Old Man are even iconic in the first place. Sure, there's a couple of quests, but they're very basic, and I'm not sure they'd ever evoke the emotions that I felt when I played real RuneScape, apart from one very special standout quest, which I won't spoil for you, but on your way to get the crystal bow, make sure to enjoy it. And by reducing the amount of characters and their involvement in the story, the game loses that RuneScape charm and personality and becomes much more generic in the process. Then because of that, the game takes a much greater focus on your own experience and your playthrough within it.
Excuse me. Oh, what the? Bro, get out of my house. There's no escape now. You're trapped in here with me.
That can be a great thing if you're playing with a group and making tons of memories, or a bit lousy if you're in single player.
It's a bit fiddly.
It just makes me wonder what the experience would have been like if they'd have taken this engine and some of the ideas to make something a bit more like a RuneScape 4. Because no, this isn't RuneScape 4. At times, it doesn't even feel like RuneScape, which is why throughout the video I've been saying real RuneScape to refer to RS3 and OSRS. Regardless of how you feel about those two games, it's impossible to say that either game isn't RuneScape. Then, thanks to this one little word in the title, this game has a lot more eyes, questions and scrutiny on it than if it had been released without it. Then because of that one little word, I can't help but want this game to succeed, which leads me to my last question. Buy it? Or skip it? It's impossible to ignore that this game has an uphill climb in front of it. Jagex does not have a great history of supporting side projects, or even RS3 at times. Coupled with the fact that the game is pretty bare bones at the moment, it means that I've already put it down, and will likely only pick it up again next year after the content drought has passed. The team just do not have the speed and scale needed to keep up with the attention given to them from their initial shadow drop, and then they go ahead and make more people redundant. And it's already clear from their planned release schedule that they're not going to be able to deliver content quickly enough to keep people interested. And that's a real shame because I do want this game to succeed. I think it's a strong foundation actually, and I'm excited to see upcoming content. But just because I'm an addict doesn't mean I can recommend it to you in its current state. Not unless you're a hardcore RuneScaper like me. If, in a year's time, I revisit the game and there's a lot more content and I can see the game has been supported well, I'd love to say it. Yeah, pick up the game at full price. But for now at least, skip it. If you've made it this far into the video, thanks so much for sticking around. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've not really made a review like this before, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you hated it, also let me know down below. Any engagement on this platform is good engagement. And I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.
Popeth ar ôl marcho gwagle i gilinor.